Hey, what's up guys? This is Justin, and today I'm going to be mixing it up a little bit. I'm going to be giving you my first video game review for Spider-Man on PS4. Just as a warning, before I start this off, I'm going to be talking about multiple spoilers in this review, so if you do not want any of this game ruined, turn back now. So Spider-Man takes place in New York City, obviously. Peter Parker's been Spider-Man for a good few years now, and with the help of NYPD officer Yuri Watanabe, he's about to put Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, away for good.
Do your thing.
Yes!
After his encounter with Fisk, Peter continues his research and development on prosthetic limbs at Octavius Industries with, you guessed it, Otto Octavius. So not only does Peter run around as Spider-Man, he has a paying job at Octavius Industries, and he volunteers at Feast, a charity organization he works at with Aunt May. Soon after volunteering there, he begins to get suspicious of Feast's leader Martin Lee and his random disappearances, and from here, the adventure truly unfolds. Let me start by talking about the gameplay. The game features an open world style mechanic where you're free to roam the entire city, with some minor limitations that is. I'm not gonna lie, after the first mission of this game, I spent about 2 hours roaming around the city using street signs just to see how really accurate this representation of New York City was. From Central Park, the Empire State Building, and Times Square, it's safe to say this game is about 90% accurate in representing the actual city. And if you were wondering, yes, if you stand around certain pizza shops in this video game and listen really closely, you can hear the classic Funiculi Funicula song from Spider-Man 2 on PS2.
Trouble.
The combat system feels right at home due to borrowed elements from Batman Arkham Knight and a few other open world video games. It's pretty much the same down to the counters, throws, and special weapons, but in my opinion, that's not a bad thing. I just don't feel like this game did anything to add upon the mechanic. The main story itself lasts anywhere from 15 to 20 hours, depending on how fast you are, the difficulty, and how distracted you get along the way. It's safe to say from start to finish, this is one of the most entertaining video game experiences I've had in years. The side missions are pretty cool. I've spent countless hours trying to top my best time in Taskmaster's challenges, or trying to get all the bonuses in the base battles and crime fights. Some side missions are more fun than others. Black Cat side missions really bored me, especially since I knew I wasn't going to encounter her in the main game. We have to pay $24.99 if we want that. One good thing is, I've played this game for at least 40 hours and haven't 100%ed it yet, so there's still a lot of work to be done. Next, I want to talk about my favorite aspect of the game, the characters.
All units, level 4 mobilization. Location, Fisk Tower.
Fisk?
So obviously we're going to start out with the most important one, Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. As I mentioned before, this Peter Parker's been Spider-Man for a few years now, so they have multiple different references to previous villains he's faced off against.
We're trying to improve the prosthetics hardware. Doc was trying to improve the actuator's granularity.
Surprisingly, there's multiple missions where you're just playing as Peter Parker. It's a different type of mission, that's for sure, but the out-of-suit missions are just as entertaining as the in-suit ones. And lastly, they skip the origin story for obvious reasons, but that doesn't mean he forgets where he came from and who made him the man he is today. So with his growing popularity, subtle MCU references, and him getting his own animated movie in December, it makes perfect sense to put Miles Morales in the Spider-Man universe.
You know anyone by the name of Martin Lee?
Wow, that was too easy. I can't believe Sable systems are unsecured.
In this version, he's a hacker who knows he's destined for something greater. After his father's death, Miles' story evolves into something much more than I expected.
Do I know you? I'm Peter Parker.
Hip squared.
I'm not too familiar with his origin in the comics, but this story was really compelling and furthermore proves the point that you do not need a suit to be a hero.
Whoa. You want a taste?
Nah, I'm good, kid.
Hey, Pete.
MJ?
Mary Jane was a breath of fresh air in this game. Her stealth missions were boring at first to me, but as I played it and understood her story more, I really started to enjoy her character.
Why did you ask me here, Pete?
You know, just dinner between friends.
Friends. Is that what we are?
Maybe we could be, you know, if that's what you wanted.
With so many iterations shown before, it's neat to hear about her past relationship with Peter Parker and how they're doing in the post-breakup phase. Lastly, due to her reporter job, I love that she goes above and beyond just to get a story. I really liked how in this version, she wanted to really do everything herself and not just be the girl that Spider-Man saves.
If you know my moves, you know I'm gonna wreck you.
Surprise me, if you can.
So switching over to the villains, I have to talk about Tombstone and Taskmaster. I really love these characters because it was a new story to me. I've actually never heard of these characters, and I think my one friend was telling me that Taskmaster was in Lego Marvel Superheroes or Lego Avengers or one of those games. But either way, they were one of the coolest parts for me. The battles with both characters were fun enough, but unfortunately they're just side missions, so they don't get as much game time as others.
I'll take this. What are you doing to me?
The best villain in this game, of course, is Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative. I like the whole Devil's Breath element introduced into the game, and it was neat to see how it affected different people. Lee's story of revenge was really interesting to see, and I like the different aspects of his powers he used against Spider-Man. One of my other favorite aspects of this game was Doc Ock. In a world where we've seen him featured in so many different comics, movies, video games, this rendition was a completely fresh take on the character. I liked seeing him play a mentor figure to Peter Parker. Not to mention, they changed up his origin story and had him develop his mechanical limbs due to his degenerative neurological disorder that's degrading all of his muscular functions.
You're the only one who knows, Peter. I'd like to keep it that way. Of course.
The other villains in this game were fine, but for the most part they didn't add anything new to the character like they did with Octavius. Some of the negative aspects I had going into this game was, whenever I was playing Black Cat's missions, all I could think of was, she's going to be featured in the first DLC, so I know you're not really going to have an encounter with her or anything like that. It's really weird to have a set of side missions in the game and then have them continue in a DLC. Although I wasn't really let down by the game's villains, I really think they could have delved deeper into the back catalog of unknown villains in the Spider-Man universe, instead of kind of just rehashing the same ones we've seen in previous Spider-Man games, and not really offering too much to kind of revamp the character.
That's new.
I was kind of hoping I'd see more of Taskmaster and Tombstone, but they were just thrown into some side missions and their ending didn't really feel at all satisfying. Now, one last thing I have to mention, and I can't really fault the game's final rating for this, but I want to touch upon the subject of glitches and patches in this game. If I'm not mistaken, I was playing on version 1.04 day 1, so that means they had to have patched it a few times that day. But I was still experiencing any issues ranging from Spider-Man talking to Miles Morales, all the background noises and everything were there, including Spider-Man's speech, but whenever Miles moved his mouth, he would have no speech. It was just dead silent.
And a few other choice adjectives Jameson uses. Look.
Other issues I experienced was this guy's over here swatting flies. I think he's beating up on an invisible cop. Maybe it glitched out or he's not rendered. I don't know. And whatever the hell this is, I don't know who left this in here, but shit like this is going to give me nightmares. For the future of the game, I know they're confirmed to be releasing 3 different DLCs until winter. The first DLC is involving Black Cat, and I'm excited to see what the other 2 packs will include. Fingers crossed we get my favorite villain, Morbius, but maybe they're saving him for the next game. Okay, this is gonna sound stupid, but I'm really hoping they get the amazing Bagman costume for you to wear. As corny as it is, that suit was always a love letter to the fans in previous Spider-Man games, and it will be funny to see it with modern graphics.
Another boy band? Are you guys gonna sing for me?
I also heard there's a new game plus to be released in the coming weeks, and I'd honestly rather wait to 100% the game on a new game plus than the actual game itself, so that's why I've been kind of hesitant to just do everything right now. And with the success of this game, it looks like the people of Insomniac are already throwing around ideas for a second one.
It's pretty weird, right? Not that weird.
This game surpassed my expectations and has to be one of the best superhero games ever made in my opinion.
Excuse me, late for work!
The few minor issues I had with the game didn't upset me enough to really affect my overall opinion.
Coming through!
Looking good, Spidey!
Hello, New York! Haha! New suit, same old me.
If you're a fan of the superhero genre, action games, or hell, even if you're one of those people who hasn't picked up a game in years, this is the game that you'll be glad to have checked out. 9 out of 10.